Man, happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope everyone is having an awesome start to your Wednesday. Wanted to come on just to share some thoughts right quick. My wife and I, we watched the movie, Tyler Perry's movie, Straw, a couple of nights ago. And to Roger P. Henson, who portrayed Miss Janiyah Wilkerson. Phenomenal movie. But that movie made me think about my mom. My mom, she was Janai Wilkerson, and I know coming up as a child, my mama had her struggles being a single mother of three boys. But one thing I know my mom sacrificed a lot, and she kept clothes on our back, food on the table, lights always remained on, and I don't remember a moment where the electricity was turned off. But I know that came with a lot of sacrifices. And I know my mama had her struggles. And she shielded us from those struggles. And I'm sure it's on the inside of her. My mom probably have so many stories that she could share, but she chose to keep it secluded inside of her. But my mom was Janiyah. And I think the final straw for my mom was, far as a career. She was working at this plant in Elberton, Georgia, and she brought a check home for $60 for a week's worth of work. That was her last straw. And she went on and decided to go to nursing school. And even in the midst of her going to nursing school, I remember the government cheese we had to go get out of this truck. And I remember the food stamps, going in the store to utilize the food stamps. But that was just a sacrifice that she had to make temporarily just to accomplish her goal and to keep us fed, keep us clothed, and thank God for her village of people to help us along the way. When mothers, and I know a lot of mothers probably could relate to that movie if you haven't watched it. It's a great movie. Jordan Peterson, he spoke once before about how mothers, when they harm their children, you see these stories where mothers, unalive their children, and you sit back and wonder, how could she do that? Here's what happens per Jordan Peterson. 7 bad things come together at the same time, and a mother loses it. And the consequences of it is she do harm to her children. So 7 things can't come together at the same time, and a lot of times you have to get to know people and to figure out why they behave the way they do. And I'm reading this book. It's Ryan Leake, How to Work with Difficult. I'm sorry, How to Work with Complicated People. Don't let the title fool you. It's not what you think. But this book is made for me because I'm complicated. And he speaks about. There's a chapter in here where he talks about curiosity in amongst team members or whatever. But you just have to ask questions. You just have to be curious about people and get to know people, because a lot of times you don't know what people are dealing with and what they're going through. And it'll give you an understanding of what's going on in people's lives. Like me, in EMS, I struggle with trauma calls. And there's a reason. I had to think back and say, why do I struggle? And when I say struggle, I'm not saying I can't care for them, but my heart is just hurt when I see people get hurt. And it came back from my childhood. My brother, Rick, he's 8 years older than I am. He passed away in 2023. But in my childhood, I always found myself looking after him. And when my mom probably could tell me, I can't remember the year, I was roughly 10 years old. And I was outside with my brother, and I witnessed my brother shoot himself in his abdomen with a rifle. And I remember walking into the house, and my mom was in the house, and I told her, I said, Mama, Rick just shot himself. And I remember my neighbors, two men I know. They loaded Rick into the back of a car and they drove him to the hospital here in Elberton, Georgia. And eventually Rick he went down to Augusta and went under, numerous surgeries. And he survived. And then later on, right, I guess before his graduation from high school, my brother was involved in a horrific car accident and messed up his face like really bad. And I remember my mom bringing him home, and I didn't recognize him because he had stitches everywhere, sutures everywhere. Lip was all messed up. And as a little boy, I remember feeding him with a straw. And but he recovered from that. So I guess those two critical trauma events, that's why I struggle with trauma calls in my profession. So before you judge people, find out about people. And Ryan Lee, I'm not going to read nothing to you, but there is something that he said, though, in this book regarding curiosity. He said, ask this question if you have the courage to ask someone this, or you can ask yourself, what is it like to be you? So if you ask someone that question, they may just tell you the answer. But he broke it down into 6 questions. He said, I wonder what going through the hiring process here was like for you. That's just asking a coworker. I'm curious about the emotions you navigate being the only remote member of our team. I wonder what extra pressure and expectations you deal with as the only woman on the board. I love to know how you manage your work-life balance given the demands of this job. I can only imagine the pressure you might feel being the youngest team lead here. Given the rapid pace of our industry, I'm curious how it feels to be constantly adapting to new technologies. But I could ask a question that he left out. What is it like to be the only minority working in your organization? Those are questions that you should ask, and be ready for the answer. But it will allow you to understand people better. Janiyah Wilkerson, she was going through something, but she wasn't being seen. She wasn't being heard. So that movie was really profound. Man, y'all continue to have a good Wednesday. Take care.